Right, guys, I think we're going to kick off. For anyone who doesn't know who I am, my name is Schmidt. I'm the host of Into the Necrosphere. It's a weekly podcast that posts every Tuesday. If you like the kinds of the brand of shit talking that Ralph and I are about to engage in, then definitely make sure that you check that out. Ralph, I don't think you need an introduction, but just in case folks were a little bleary-eyed when Ultha played yesterday, would you like to introduce yourself properly?
I will. First of all, hello. Thanks for coming out. I mean, for once you could actually see us on stage because there was not enough fog. Usually you don't see us. But
we did demand that we carry the fog machine over onto the stage, and that blowing from it, we thought it's great. Not conducive to a productive conversation.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ralph. I'm from Germany, obviously, which you can hear, I think. Turning 45 this year, and been doing Ultha for 10 years. This year is the keyboard player in Ultha, and this is our merge goddess. And before that, I played in a band called Planks, and I've been playing music forever. And yeah, 10 years of Ultha is like our 10th anniversary this year. And it has been our third UK show yesterday. In, like I said, on stage yesterday, I don't know, were you all at the show that we played yesterday? Yes? Hope you liked it. And so yeah, we had like one terrible show in London where we played for 30 minutes. And then, yeah, Gary and the Reaper agency just stepped up and they flew us out to Derby last year, which was one of the most emotional shows we played. And they said, like, you want to play Fortress Fest next year? It will be a bit bigger. We're like, okay. So yeah, we're incredibly grateful to be here and to. I always name Gary because he's kind of like the leading figure in that, but like the whole fucking crew of Reaper agency, everybody from top to bottom, like bottom I mean like in the basement, who take care of the bands. It's just like a perfect fucking festival. So we're so grateful to be here. And whenever you see someone with like a Reaper agency badge or whatever, hug them, give them love, because this is something special. Yeah.
So I think that's probably the best place to start. I didn't see the ill-fated London show. And as a matter of fact, actually, I don't even think I've ever asked you about it, because my only frame of reference for Ultha Live is Reaper Fest, which I thought was fantastic, and then yesterday, which I thought was absolutely outstanding as well. But what happened at the London show? 30 minutes means you guys kind of almost done with your first song?
Yeah, we actually played 2 songs, yes. And it was a long-ass drive, and we're 2 bands. It was us and Vanum from America. We were on tour together, and all of them were chicken shit. And like, who's driving? I'm like, yeah, of course, I'll do it. So like, I had to drive all the way from the ferry to London, through London, and I had to take a piss really bad, and there was nowhere to park. So we went up to the venue, and then they said like, yeah, there's 2 more bands that we added, and they were a tour package, and then yeah, they will start, and of course they had like backdrops and banners and whatever, like all this goofy stuff. And I'm not like, it's not in general goofy, but their stuff was goofy. And so they took forever, of course, like taking up their stuff, taking down their stuff, and then Vanum and us, we're like, okay, let's go. And then the guy said like, yeah, there's a curfew at 11. And it was 10 minutes to 10. We're like, cool. So we have to change the complete back line. And then we were 2 bands that all play long sets. And there were, I don't know, like 80 people, 90 people there. And yeah, then it was like, okay, Vanum, like you will skip 2 songs. Ultha said we'll skip half the set. And then we like pretty much just handed the guitars to the next guy, and we just started playing and continuing. And like we were in the middle of our last song, which was 17 minutes long, and you could already see like people getting nervous because it was 2 minutes after 11. And like, holy shit. And then like they booked us in a terrible hostel with molded bread, and like it was a real shit show. But so like last year Derby and this year is like completely different worlds. But well, you start somewhere.
I was about to say, how many years between that show and Derby?
Ooh, I think the Vanum thing was 2019.
Okay, all right.
Derby was 2022 then.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I said, two shows rapturously received, as far as I'm concerned. Like, did that almost in some way feel vindicating, having been through both, having been through that very fucking horrendous experience the first time, coming back, doing Reaper Fest, and then doing yesterday?
To be honest, I think like this London thing, and I'm speaking for myself, but I am sure that Andy can attest to that too. We've all been doing bands for 20-something years, and we've been through worse. I've played worse shows than what we had in London. So like I'm talking like moldy squats with rats in like the sleeping area and shit like this. So this was actually okay. It was just annoying because we were looking forward to playing the first UK show, and it took us a long way to get there with the ferry and everything. And then it's just like so many people came out and like, why did you just play 2 songs? Well, it wasn't up to us. I never think in the terms of redeeming. I'm just really, really happy when we are well received, and it's always the feeling if we play well. And I think like in Derby and yesterday we played really well. And I'm always critical with saying like, oh, we're like a good band or this or that. I know we're not a bad band, and I know like when we play, like when we're in the pocket and play really well together, we're like a good live band. And I always compare us more to like Pearl Jam in 1993, playing like a stage where everybody's flying around and it's like more action, and like most black metal is like standing there all grim and like, ugh. And I don't know, like the cool thing is like with the light coming from the back that you cannot see my face, but I can see all your faces. And then like people smiling, or just like Ultha is not a headbanging band, but like people are mostly like, and I love that because the idea behind Ultha is like being transcendental, like more like soundtrack music-ish. And this to us is like seeing people in trance, and when we stop playing a song, them raising their fists and yelling, like, and you could like when we started playing the Ultha Find yesterday, people were like, yes! And we're like, holy shit. So it's cool, like, because we didn't have the chance to come here that often, and that's really like why we still do that. Like after 10 years, like doing this thing, playing to so many people that have seen us once maybe, like you've seen us once, you guys seen us once, and now it's the second time, and the reaction afterwards, people came up, like hugged us and said like, I just literally teared up while you played, and this is so meaningful because this band is so meaningful to us. So yeah, maybe that's redeeming, but it's just a good feeling, yeah.
We spoke about this yesterday before you played, and I said to your credit, and this is a very big compliment. I've seen hundreds of bands over the course of the last 2 years, or not 2 years, 20 years. And you guys kind of succeed against all odds, in my view, when it comes to being a live outfit, because to my mind, I think it's extremely difficult to carry off very long songs live and do it in a way that consistently engages the whole audience. 2, I think your music is very, very complex. So if there's even something slightly off about the mix or about the sound, there's always that risk that a lot of the dynamics, a lot of the complexity is going to be, a lot of the detail is going to be buried in the fuzz. And you guys seem to pull it off, and not just pull it off, but as you intimated now, because I'm one of those people, you elicit an emotional reaction from the audience, unlike any really that I've seen from a lot of black metal bands. If I watch Mayhem or I watch Marduk, fist is in the air, I feel that spirit of rebellion, but I feel like almost more introspective. Like it's a very personal experience seeing Ultha and experiencing it the way that I've experienced both of those shows. I would love to have folks maybe later on, if we've got time, we can do that. I'd love to get people to kind of give their own view in the audience of how they experienced yesterday's show. But what was interesting to me when we spoke yesterday is there's kind of I guess there's almost a method to the madness. There's some specific things that you guys incorporate into your songwriting that has helped you achieve that. Can you expand on that for the folks in the audience?
Sure. I would, before we get into that, I would totally love like hearing you talk, because I talk a lot. Like you can find me on podcasts all the time. He's talking way more than I am. But yeah, like please, if you don't get the chance, come up to us later and talk to us. We love that. And so I think like we get asked that a lot because I think Ultha just sounds different than like most bands or probably any other band that does that. And of course, we also just steal ideas from others. Every band does. Like everything has been said, everything has been done. It's just the way you balance it and you mix it. And I think like the key element for us when we started this, we've all known each other from our prior bands, played together. And then it was just like, okay, we all know like how this works, and we all have so many influences, and the primary influences for Ultha is not black metal. We just play like around with ideas and stuff that we listen to, and just play it in a black metal way. But our gear that we play is more like a 70s rock band. The length of the songs and the duration and the melody mix is, to me, is like I love film scores. It's like this kind of music. There's a lot of like dark wave in it, a lot of post-punk, and just like stuff where we say like, hey, let's play it this way. And the only thing that I think we're really good at is, like, in general, we just write pop songs that are just really long and really loud. And there's like this red linen in there, where it's like you can follow the song. And that's like when we balance or like play around. Like the longest song we have is 23 minutes. That's like as long as a Simpsons episode. Like when we play that on stage, it's like right now we could have watched a Simpsons episode or a Seinfeld episode. And you have to have something that keeps people focused in there. And we always have parts that come back and nuances, like melodies that reappear. And that's what I mean with like film score music. That's like one of the influences we have, and we like play around with that. And Andy can adjust to this, like, okay, like, do we play it 16 rounds or do we play 24 rounds? Like, no, it's enough that way, but then we have to bring it back here. So it's a lot like a painting where you have like a lot of work, and then you suck the people in, and we listen to it and we think like, okay, no, this is too long, this is boring, let's cut this out. And yeah, that's just a thing that we do, and maybe that makes us a bit special. But it works, and it has like the emotional aspect to it. The lyrics are like about heartbreak, rejection, and frustration, and people gravitate to it. And to me, music is like almost like four-dimensional. Like it has the feeling, the sound, the lyrics, but like the overall aspect of the emotion behind it. And when this all comes together, it's the perfect match. And I think the bands that we love, for example, like Swans is one of my favorite bands, or Dead Can Dance, and they just write these long songs and you can just follow and they lure you in, and that's what we want to do too. We don't want to be like an aggressive, we're not like, there's aggressive parts in it, but it's not about aggression, it's about this feeling, the melancholy. That's why people sometimes consider us suicidal black metal, which is totally weird. But I get it, like there's like this emotional component to it. I'm talking really long, I'm sorry.
It's interesting what you say about film scores, because I think the best film scores are ones that really sort of take the viewer on an emotional journey. They curate the emotional journey that you're going on. So just for reference for folks that are sitting here, what are some of your favorite film scores? What are some of the film scores that kind of speak to you most when you listen back to them, and that have potentially informed some of your thinking around writing Ultha songs?
Number one, probably the best, I would say like the perfect music that has ever been written is the score by Clint Mansell and the Kronos Quartet together with Mogwai, the score for The Fountain. Well, the film is okay, it's visually cool, it's not like captivating, but the score for The Fountain is, to me, hands down the best thing that's ever been done. And it's so heartbreaking, and it has these parts where it just lifts you up and it crushes you back down. It's perfect, front to back, The Fountain. If you don't know that soundtrack and you're into film music, please go out of your way. There's a wonderful vinyl edition now by Mondo. It's worth it. Max Richter is like one component I love. The Prisoners soundtrack of that movie. Old Popol Vuh for the Nosferatu with Kinski. I love that one. There Will Be Blood.
I was just about to say, if you don't mention that, we're going to throw down.
Yeah, that's when we finally get to the wrestling talk.
Absolutely.
The table. Yeah, like I think The Fountain, the Prisoner score, The Leftovers by Max Richter. The Leftovers to me is like the best TV show after Twin Peaks that has ever been done. And the score is also shattering, and it's so beautiful. And this is like, you know, like with emo, like Ultha is sometimes considered like an emo wimp poser left-wing piss black metal band. I'll take it. And yeah, like I sometimes I need music to trigger me, like shedding a tear when everything's like combusting in me. I'm like, I need something to get it out, and then I play the Fountain soundtrack or the Leftovers soundtrack, and you have me crying in like 10 minutes, and then everything is better afterwards. And kind of like Ultha sometimes for people is the same way.
Oh, you know, it was like that for me. I told you, I absolutely had a lump in my throat, especially the Reaperfest show. And I think part of it is also, so for anyone that doesn't know, Ralph and I are part of an elite brotherhood, not the Freemasons.
Not an Aryan brotherhood.
Not the Aryan brotherhood. We are in the Horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, rounded out by our associates, Brandon Legion, Mike Hill, Mike Scandado, Jeff Kashid, Carl Hikara, and the great Cheyenne of the band Trivax. So we've known each other for a period of time. I think one of the things that was so great for me seeing you guys on stage is I've spoken to you before about how despondent you were feeling about Ultha. And I think the journey I've seen you go on over the last couple of years to where you're at, you know, with the band now has been, it's been really inspiring. It's made me, you know, as your friend, it's made me incredibly happy. Because, you know, as somebody who was at one point, you know, ready to give it up, just, you know, now, and I hope you're not about to correct me and say, no, actually you're completely wrong, but seemingly very, very positive about the band, you know, maybe you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Sometimes people talk to me and say like, you're arrogant, you're not approachable. And I'm like, okay. Is it because I'm like 6'6" tall and just like I don't smile a lot?
But is it because I'm 6'6" tall and incredibly handsome?
That's what you said. But yeah, then like people get to know us and talk to us and like, yeah, you're so humble about this whole thing, and we are like this. Why should I be posh about something like this? It's like it's personal, and like I'm so incredibly happy to be doing shit like this after 10 years. But still, like, we've been doing it for 10 fucking years. And I don't know, like, how long your longest relationships were, but I think 10 years is a long thing. And there's, like, parts of us, like, sometimes we have fights, like, we argue. But it's, there's sometimes it's, like, stuff happens and, like, people are pissed, but we've always been able to talk about it. And then, like, 2 days later, it was just perfect. And there's like a camaraderie within this band with the 5 of us, or with like Danny, with like 6 of us now that are this band. It's just something special we all treasure. And in 2019, I was completely devastated. I was at the worst part in my life I've ever been in. And we released The Inextricable Wandering, which is like a document to this time. And in the end of 2019, I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Like, we were kind of like drifting apart from what we want to do with music, and like, and I'm a fatalist, if that's the right pronunciation. And I'm like, okay, we have to kill this band now. Like, I'm done. I cannot write any songs for this anymore. And I always bring like the basic ideas for the songs to the table, and then we talk about it and work on it. But like, I'm done. I cannot do it anymore. And then I was like, okay, fine, Unholy Passion. It's like, it's our own festival. It's like a mini version of this year, which we always do in Cologne. And this year is the last time for this festival. And we played 2019. I'm like, maybe it's a good time to call it quits now. And then the others said, like, we don't have to end this. We've done so much, and we've like gone all out and played so many great shows. Why not take a break? People are allowed to take breaks, and I'm like, okay. And I felt this kinship with these guys. I'm like, okay, let's try it. Thankfully, it was 2019, and we're like, oh, we have no plans for 2020. Good for us, because nothing happened. Yeah. So And then like in the pandemic, we started like talking again, everybody did their own thing. I had Ropes of Night, and Andy had a studio and his other band, and Sun Worship and Unruh and all these bands. And then we started like trading riffs, and that's when we started writing All That Has Never Been True. And this record, when we dropped it out of nowhere on the 1st of April of 2022, people were going crazy for it. And that brought us out. Like then Gary said, like, I want you to fly out, we'll pay it, and you play the whole record. I love it so much. And it's crazy, and I'm so happy we're still doing it. And yeah, I'm happy to say that right now we're in the process of writing our 5th full-length record. And I would have never expected to have something where I write like 5 full-length records and all the other stuff. And yeah, there's commotion because we want to dare something new. Like we finished the trilogy with the last record, and now it's like open house, like whatever we want to do, and we're trying out, and there's discussions. But I think, yeah, like at the end of the day, we're just so happy to still be doing it, to get the chance to do this, to play in front of wonderful people like you guys. And now you're like, even there's great bands playing, and you're sitting here listening to my jibber jabber. So yeah, that's cool and very special, and that's, I think, why Ultha is still very vital, and we're actually working on like new deals with like a new booker to get more UK shows, because everybody here has been so kind to us. And yeah, fucking Brexit made it like terrible to get here, but we'll pull it off, and we want to play more for you. Yeah, so you have to accept our shitty faces, like the German shitty faces coming to your country, but we'll be back.
I think partly why I asked about the sort of redemptive quality of these last 2 shows that you've played is because I know you have a strong connection to the UK music scene, you know, and I've spoken about this on the podcast many, many times. You know, I think it's a tragedy that there's not more support and more love shown for just the vast number of heavily influential bands that have come from this country. You know, you have a country that spawned Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Motorhead, Venom, Killing Joke, Depeche Mode. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Like, what's that? Can you expand on that connection from your perspective?
I'm a wimp and a poser when it comes to like classic heavy metal. So like, I'm not a big Led Zeppelin fan. I don't own a Black Sabbath record. Where are the boos? Yeah, okay, I assume as much. Fuck you.
Now you're doing your heel turn.
Yeah, this is my heel turn.
Black Sabbath sucks.
You people. Yeah, we're like pro wrestling nerds. Sorry, like when it goes into that direction, we'll maybe like throw over a table to like a power bomb or something. The Manchester music scene, which is oddly enough like where we flew in both times, and then took like a lorry like for 3 hours to get to the places where we play. Yeah, like I think like the most important music to me is like the post-punk thing. And Joy Division, the Chameleons, they're like some of my favorite bands. Death Can Dance, Killing Joke, of course, and I mean, look at the history of the bands that come from here, but especially this kind of scene, like for example, The Sound. I don't know, you're familiar with the band The Sound? Yeah, some of you? It's like, there's a band, The Sound, the record From the Lion's Mouth. It's one of the best, saddest, darkest post-punk records of all time. Singer killed himself, spoiler, their band's not around anymore. But that record is so heavily influential on me, and so like all these British bands are influential on Ultha. But I have to say, when it comes to black metal, it's more the American black metal than the UK black metal. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Killing Joke we can talk about for years and years and years. And Geordie, rest in peace. To me, I don't think people realize, even folks that I speak to that are into black metal and extreme music, they don't realize just how much of an impact that guy's had. Jason Mendonça told me once that Corenzin's guitar sound is basically just a total ripple from Geordie. It's like it's Geordie as reimagined by Terence from Suffocation.
Yeah.
But I mean, that dude is just he's such a unique figure. And again, as I said, it's a tragedy to me that in this country there's not more love and respect shown towards all of these unique figures that have contributed so much to music. But again, I just kind of wanted to get your take on that, and how that connects into what you do. But getting back to the follow-up to your last record, what's been the progress on that so far? Have you kind of can you share any views on what that may end up sounding like? What's the process been to date for putting that together?
It's in the new stuff. It always takes some time until I know what I want to do as a next step, and then I present the idea to the others, and then we talk about it. And I think we're not done playing black metal, so there will be fast stuff on it, but it will definitely sound a bit different. I would say we experiment more, but we're definitely not going to be Oranzi Pazuzu. We will also not do the mistake of completely breaking away from what we've done, but we'll definitely feel more free in the approach what we're doing right now. And there's we're different instrumentation, swapping of instruments, talking about it. And my idea is to make this next record to sound like the soundtrack of Dead Man, but as a metal record. So even more the flow of a movie score with interludes and this kind of stuff. That's my dream right now. And we have, I think, 5 rough ideas. Some songs are almost finished, and they go into the right direction. But we're at that point, and that's what we learned with the difference between Inextricable Wandering, where there was the Century Media deal, and it's we have to wrap this up, to the all that has never been true part, where there was the pandemic and no one expected anything from us because people actually thought Ultha is dead. And that's what he's telling us right now. It's we're experimenting. It's I'm really pushy. I want to finish something, but it's there's no rush, and this needs to be the next step into the evolution. And so yeah, I think the general thing is even more flow, where you have this up and down in the record, different elements, guest musicians, I can tell that already. And yeah, we're working on it, and it should be great. And I can tell you already that Gary really tried to bribe us to play the release show here at this festival. And I told him no, dude, this will be a bit too rushed, but yeah, but he wants blood. You have to bring it, and you have to play the whole record back to back for me.
All right. Okay, I did promise I'd give an opportunity for some questions. One last thing that I want to talk about before we do that. We entered it, our love of pro wrestling and of black metal, and one of the things that we're going to do at some point this year is a podcast connecting or tracing the similarities between wrestling in the 1990s and black metal. So give me now it was Ralph that came to me with this concept, so I'm going to let you give the elevator pitch to everybody here and get them excited about it when we actually finally do it.
So wrestling is my safe space, my happy place. Everything's fucked. Order a pizza, get a bottle of Cola Zero, and watch pro wrestling. Yeah, pro wrestling is such an incredibly wholesome place. When you take out Vince McMahon, this fucking cunt, and but in general, because it's scripted reality. It's soap operas or Drag Race or these kind of things where just you feel happy watching it. And to me, I started watching wrestling when I was 12, around the same time that I discovered black metal, so in 92, 93. And now a lot of people dropped out of watching wrestling, as also a lot of people dropped out of listening to black metal. Some of my friends from my teenage years, they're no, they have families now and they listen to mature stuff. And I'm still touring with my band and doing this. And then they come up to me, it's oh yeah, dude, back then Hulk Hogan was the greatest and Shawn Michaels and the wrestling was so good. It's have you seen any match in the last 20 years? And compare it to the way it was, and seeing Hulk Hogan on testosterone, and it's ooh, That's like, and some of the black metal, like the gatekeepers are still that way. It's like, no, everything that doesn't sound like Mayhem's not true. Fuck you, faggot. And like, we had that. I'm like, I don't care, man. And like, there's a new company called AEW that has been around for 5 years now, and I'm a diehard fan. And I already have an appointment for a tattoo which will say wrestling is real, everything else is fake, because I love this so much. And black metal nowadays has so many cool strains of music, and it incorporates so many cool things. And fuck these losers that still think like, oh, you don't have corpse paint, you're not black metal. Oh, you don't sing about Satan, fuck you. Like, I don't fucking give a shit, man. There's a million Mayhem ripoffs you can jerk off to. Go out of your way, do that. Like, yeah. Thank you. You can debate if like a band like Death Heaven or Agriculture or black metal or not, like who gives a shit? If these bands do something for one person in the world, they're legit. Like, do whatever the fuck you want. Don't be a Nazi prick. Like, fuck Nazi sympathy. Like, aside from that, you can do whatever you want. And if it's cool for people, great. There's like, if you're a gatekeeper, be like that. And that's the same with wrestling. If I talk to people about wrestling, it's the same thing. And then I play them a match of the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers, and they lose their mind, like, oh, wow. And it's like, it's the same thing that when people come up, and Lars, our other guitar player in Ultha, he plays in a band called Sun Worship. And when I got to meet them, they looked like the fucking Proclaimers. Like, they looked like I would walk fly. But then they played like the craziest immortal style black metal I've ever heard, and you could see like, this is authentic. And I hate, what's the opposite of authenticity? Inauthenticity?
Inauthenticity.
Yeah, okay, sorry. And I think you can tell with a lot of bands. You see them, it's like, oh yeah, I know, you're like play pretend. You had the corpse paint done before you wrote the first riff. It's like, you know, and that's the same, like, there's an evolution, and it's good that music evolves. Do I back everything that's happening in black metal? Definitely not. Do I back everything that's happening in wrestling? Also not. But it's cool that it's there, and then it's evolving, and that we have shit like this year, this festival, where there's so many strains of heavy music, and people from all like backgrounds, colors, genders, and no one cares. Everybody's just enjoying it together, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, well, that episode coming soon. I said we'll take some questions, so we've got about probably 10 minutes or so. Who would like to ask the first question? Gentleman with his hand up at the back.
We've just been speaking about it downstairs, Ralph, but undefeated wrestler, who would be your ideal tag partner? Who would you like to face?
Ooh. Yeah, by the way, this gentleman back there is Andy. He's the master of everything that happens downstairs, the catering and everything, and he's a fucking lovely person, and Andy, you're the greatest. So thank you very much for taking care of all the bands, and especially getting me these rice crackers. Thank you so much. So you want to know, like, if I would still be a wrestler, I wrestled for half a year. That's like, that's the trivia that he knows. Like, I did half a year of pro wrestling when I was 19 or something, or 20, and it's fucking painful, man. It's like no joke, like, wrestling is real. And so yeah, like, oh, Jesus, my best tag partner. I think like from the earlier days, probably Bret Hart, because like he's just like technically one of the best wrestlers ever. I'd be like his muscle, if I had muscle. But I'm like the tall dude, you know, like the Undertaker. Like imagine like Undertaker and Bret Hart being a tag team. And oh God, who do I want to face? Maybe Ric Flair and Arn Anderson or something like this. Yeah. Like the classic. If I go nowadays, I just want to be the manager of FTR. I don't know if you like watch AEW, but FTR is like the best tag team in the world right now. And yeah, something like this. Is that okay, Andy?
Yeah. Apologies for not having the Ralph 316 set.
I have to say, man, as much as I loved Stone Cold, I was always a rock guy. If you smell what I'm cooking.
All right, any more questions? We've got a hand up.
After Reaper last year playing All That's Never Been True in its entirety, has it made you want to play more albums in their entirety?
Well, we thought about this. The idea was this year for our last Unholy Passion Fest that we will play the first record and the first EP in the original lineup. But our original guitar player that I started the band with, he has harsh tinnitus. And so he said he's not doing it. He can't do it. Then there would be Converging Sins that a lot of people asked for because it was like the record that put us on the map. But there's Rachel of Espen and the Witch singing on that record, and she said she cannot do it anymore, and we wouldn't want to do it with a different singer because her voice is just too perfect. And then there's Inextricable Wandering, which to me is a very difficult record. And there's a bunch of stuff on there where I said like I wouldn't do it like this again, and also it's like too heavy on the emotional side. We finished yesterday with The Everest, which is the first song of that, and it's pretty much the only song that I made my peace with. Spoiler for Unholy Passion, which is like short run, it's like a 450 people show that we do every year in Cologne on the first weekend of December, and it's our only hometown show where we dig out like old jams that we never play live, and we invite 3 bands that we love. One of the band has to be a non-metal band. That's the general idea. And we will play another song of the Inextricable Wandering, but I myself would never play it in its entirety because there's too much pain involved with that. I think that at some point playing All That Has Never Been True one more time, that might be an option. And for the new record, when it comes out, I guess like that would be interesting to play this in its entirety. But yeah, in the end, it's all about the loot. Give me 10 grand and I'll play whatever you want.
This is going to be your last Unholy Passion, right?
Yes.
And what made you decide to wrap it up? What made you decide that now was the right time to draw a line under that?
It's difficult to book festivals, especially with other festivals popping up around it, because a lot of people have the same idea. So single club shows are not as well attended anymore. Like you have to be a hype band and it works. And so we established it's the 8th edition of Unholy Passion in our 10th year, and it has been crazily successful with like selling out every year, and it's like almost like a family fest. And but I have to like look after myself, and that's something I realized last year. Last year in April, there was a big meltdown that I had, and something really broke inside of me, and I was like, okay, I have to change something up. Something's not right here. And it made me think about doing better, more conscious decisions. And I'm a driven guy, so like when I entered the podcast realm with you guys, I was a guest host on like a lot of shows. I had a second band next to Ultha, and I'm a full-time teacher, so I work up to 70 hours a week. And then there was a lot of stress and a lot of grief involved with my cat dying. And because like my cat was it might sound corny, but like my cat was like the essential soul that saved me. And she passed, and that really like tore a hole in me, and I'm like the guy like, oh no, it's all good, I'm working, I'm functioning. So, and then it just had a meltdown, which almost costed something super important. And I'm like, okay, I have to change things up. And then I'm like, okay, and I'm still in the process of learning to take a step back and just say, no, I'm not doing it. I need to like step away. And that's the same thing with this festival. It's a cool finale. It's the 10th year of this band. It's the 8th year of this festival. But I'm just tired of like hoping that enough people will show up and having opposing festivals in a 3-hour radius around us that try to steal away people from us because they have a personal grudge with us. And I'm just like, I'm tired of fighting when it comes to this. I want to have fun doing it, and it has been great. And maybe eventually I'll bring it back, I don't know. But like for this year, it feels good to just say, wrap it up. Next year, new record, some kind of release show. And if we want to go back to Unholy Passion, we will do it. But I think you should only do these things when you have passion for it, love and time, And if it's becoming a stress factor, you should maybe take a step away. And that's something I learned last year. And that's why I said, like, okay, maybe it's time for now to call it quits.
Excellent. Well, Ralph, thank you so much for your time. Folks, thank you so much for attending. We really, really hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to be back at 4 o'clock with Guerilla, and then later on I'm going to be speaking to this evening's headliner, Wolves in the Throne Room, for the first ever live Into the Necrosphere podcast. So hopefully as many of you as possible will attend that. But Ralph, you know, what a pleasure doing this. At some point we will get all of the, or at least most of the Horsemen on stage together, and we will do a live Horsemen podcast. But that's at some point down the pike.
Yeah. I'm totally thankful for doing this. Thanks for Reaperfest for giving me the chance. Thanks for you for taking your time out of this busy day, listening to this thing. Like I said, we absolutely appreciate all of you taking an interest in this band. Without all of you, we couldn't do what we do. Yeah, so thanks very much for listening. And if you want to chat it up and like we're here all day, come have a alcohol-free drink with us. And yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.